long time, I wasn't quite sure what I'd find. Living a lifetime.
Hello, welcome to Album Deep Dive with Jason and Friends. And today I have my friend back again, my wrestling partner, Joe.
How you doing?
Not partner, Menace.
Yes, opponent, rival.
I guess I was the Menace. You were, yeah, I was the Menace, and I was the bad guy.
Yes, yes.
All right, so welcome back, Joe. And Joe has requested for us to review the Ramones album, the first album, a classic punk album. To me, that started the birth of American punk.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite albums. It's short, it's sweet, it's hard hitting, and it's just like high velocity, raw energy.
Yeah, I mean, you have the album cover, which is an iconic album cover, and it was it was Roberta Bailey who shot it. New York City, simple background, wall, leather jackets, just incredible.
Yeah, I mean the original concept, they wanted to do something more like a Beatles type album cover, and it wasn't working for them. This was a photo that had already been published in a rock magazine before the album was released,
Uh-huh.
and I just love the images. It's so iconic. You see it, it's the Ramones, the leather jackets, the ripped jeans, the black and white, the brick wall, and they're just such an odd looking group of characters. You got Joey there in the middle, is 6'4", kind of all slumped down with short little Tommy up on his tippy toes, like trying to reach him, and he's still a head and shoulders above him.
Yeah, I mean, an album cover that just still like people talk about, people wear on their shirts, and the crazy thing about it is though, if you look at the album cover and flip it, it's basic, boring, very minimal back cover.
Yeah, you got the track listing and and the belt buckle, and that's about it.
You don't even get a thank you to. Do they even say thank you to mom and dad?
Not everybody who worked on the album was even credited. Johnny's like, yeah, it's our first album. We don't want to confuse people.
Yeah. Who cares? Well, oddly enough, it was a flop. Considered a flop in 1976. It was recorded in January 1976 in New York City. Produced by Craig Leone and Tommy Ramone. Album was recorded in only 7 days for $6,400.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing to be able to push out something that quick. You think of all the the overdub and the remastering and everything that everybody's doing, and it's so glossy. No, it was like, this is it.
and it's funny because, like I said, this is a classic album. This is an album that people still talk about, people listen in 2026 and love and cherish. Made for $6,400, and then you got artists that had an album that didn't even last or take off, and they spent almost $1 million in the recording studio.
Yeah. It is crazy. I mean, this is like the Ed Wood budget of rock and roll right here. But I mean, the finished product is just phenomenal though. But like you said, it wasn't. It didn't take off at the time. The first year, they sold 6,000 records, and that's it. It didn't even crack the top 100 on the Billboard. It topped out at, I think, 111. They weren't selling out, big places. They were playing small clubs. They weren't making much money.
They'll released on Sire Records, which is a major record label. But again, I don't know if it was rock music at that time, the new wave, because that's punk, and you had to be kind of the birth of punk, and it started to birth a little bit of heavy metal. I think people were still a little attached to that classic rock sound, like Led Zeppelin. That you you were slowly grabbing it because Kiss had the same thing. They were another New York band like Casablanca, and Casablanca like just almost went bankrupt because the first three albums failed. It wasn't until their fourth album, which was a live album, that made the other albums sell. I would imagine this album has sold well over 1 million copies, now, but you know, a not a commercial hit, but
Not at the time. I mean, it's one of those albums that gained momentum over the years, and now we're looking back at it as like, yeah, it's one of the most important albums in rock and roll history. The birth of punk. Everybody knows, the look, the sound, but at that time, people had never seen or heard anything like this. I think, are these guys a parody? I mean, they had these dark subjects that they would sing about. Is it comedy? Is it, are they serious? And it's just like, I don't think people were ready for what it was that they were doing.
Yeah, it was so different. And like it's critics praised it. Which I don't know what it was like. I know like nowadays, if critics doesn't like something, everybody's like, I gotta see it. I want to hear it because nobody has respect for critics, I think, which is funny because that's basically what this podcast is about. But I guess, we're more fans of the album more versus critics. But, back then, I don't know, like, did a critic's opinion really matter? I would imagine so. It matters more back then to today. Because I know when it comes to movies today, if they say critics hate it, I'm usually at the movie theaters the next day watching it. It had teenage boredom, frustration, dark humor, urban life in New York City, violence, shocking imagery, relationships, rebellion. Sums up all teenagers. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. I had it as a kid. I don't remember. I mean, more of a teenager, probably mid-teens. I don't remember exactly when I first bought the album, but I had all the Ramones albums. Totally just was blown away. It was so different especially because, for me, I discovered the Ramones more in probably late 80s, going into the 90s. So for me, it was like so different from what I was listening to, but then at the same time, it was kind of old and already had ran its cycle, but it was such a fresh air, I guess, for, a 15-year-old in 1989, 90.
Yeah, my experience is even different than that because I was already into my late teens, early 20s, maybe when I first heard it, maybe about 17, 18, when I first discovered the Ramones, already playing in my own band. And people are saying, oh, yeah, you kind of remind me of that band, the Ramones. Like, oh, who's the Ramones? Huh? And I was like, well, let me go see. But, basically what they were doing, they were fans of classic rock and roll. They loved Elvis. They loved the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. Joey Ramone was a big a fan of the Wallace Sound, like the Phil Spector and the girl groups. So all the stuff that I was listening to and into, these guys were into, and people started, oh, yeah, you don't know the Ramones? You got to check them out. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And you hear that just, it's simple stripped down rock and roll on steroids. It's just high velocity in your face and then gone.
Yeah, and now that I put some thought behind it, I do remember how the Ramones got present in my life, and it was when they did their Bad Brains album, Pet Sematary, which was off the movie Pet Sematary, which was a huge movie in the 80s, Stephen King movie, and it was a cherished book that got turned into a movie, and I remember them doing the theme song, and that was definitely what got me to go back to listen. I had liked that song and said, well, now I got to hear all the old stuff, and I think it was the remake of California Sun that really grabbed me at first, and then made me get into more of the other stuff. So the Ramones, we got Joey Ramone, Johnny Ramone, Dee Dee Ramone, and Tommy Ramone, which I think it's hysterical because I always grew up thinking that they were brothers. It was a brother band, and come to find out, Joey is Jeffrey Ross Heyman. Johnny is John Williams Cummings. Dee Dee Ramone is Douglas Glenn Colvin, and Tommy Ramone is Thomas Aljory something. You can tell he's definitely the way he spells his last name. I want to say it's almost what is that? Netherlands or something like that.
Yeah, we'll just call him Tommy Ramone, I think.
Probably sounds like that. Underground music scene in the 70s. The band to me that put CBGBs on the map, along with punk, which is and they were at such a odd. I do know that they were in that birth part of punk and playing with bands like Blondie, who were unknown kind of at that time too, who had a punk sound that they didn't get their disco pop sound to further albums, but they were playing shows together, hanging out, and that's to me is pretty cool.
Yeah, four guys from the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
It started out, Tommy was managing the group. Joey was the drummer. And Dee Dee was doing a lot of the singing, but he wasn't able to sustain it through the whole show. Joey was doing a lot of the singing. They wanted to bring Joey up front. They were looking for a drummer. Tommy's already handling things for him. He's like, all right, fine, I'll be the drummer. And I mean, I think with Tommy, I think the whole Ramones sound starts with that because that style, that eighth time on the hi-hat that drove the whole, the speed of the song the way it did. I mean, that all began with Tommy on the drum kit. So I mean, it was just like the perfect combination of these four guys coming together to just create something that had never been done before.
The sound is just so, for that era, so different, and they deserve all the credit that they get for it. Fortunately, I know that I quite a few of them that passed, right? I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, every one of the guys on this original album are not with us anymore. Marky Ramone would become the second drummer a few years later when Tommy, and went back to doing behind the scenes stuff. Marky is still with us, but I believe Marky and CJ are the only living Ramones, and neither of them being original.
Yeah, I know. We mentioned the people that were on this album, which is the classic band. I do know there was multiple other Ramones, and yeah, it's just very very sad when you think about it that way. They're all gone. Such beautiful talent. I actually remember when Joey passed. I was very 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 sad. The Ramones, though, isn't there a story behind the Ramones name?
Well, the way I understand it, Dee Dee was the first one to be using the name Ramone. He was using Dee Dee Ramone and other bands that he was in before the Ramones. And the way he tells the story, Paul McCartney, during his time with the Silver Beatles around 1960 or so, was using a pseudonym with the last name Ramone, Ramon. And Dee Dee adopted it from Paul McCartney's pseudonym. And so when the other guys came along, it's like, hey, they all took on the name Ramone, like a family.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to borrow from the best.
Absolutely.
As a musician, have you ever played a Ramone song or live or just sitting in your room?
A lot of times, because of the high energy that the Ramones, had, Creek Bop, we'd open a lot of shows with that because you wanted to catch us as an original band. Nobody came to hear songs they didn't know. They wanted to, hear stuff that they know. So it was kind of within the vein of what we were doing at that time with my first band, the Jolly Green Giants, and so we would open a lot of our shows with,
That's cool. That's really cool. I would, we should have planned this where we made you pick that guitar up and play a song of the Ramones. I know I'm not going to do that to you today, but
yeah, thank you. I don't think I would have anything prepared. It wouldn't sound well.
we gotta plan something like that one day. All right. So I think we hit the backtrack pretty well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing that is interesting, with Jeff Hyman or Joey Ramone's background. I mean, the poor guy at 18 years old was diagnosed with a extreme obsessive compulsive disorder and schizophrenia, and
Uh-huh.
he had a lot of problems with the obsessive compulsive type behavior, where he'd leave his house and he'd have to check the lock, and he couldn't, go 4 steps without, counting his steps again. And it was very disruptive to his life. But when he got on stage, it was kind of like his place, his outlet, where he felt comfortable. And I mean, we know he shined.
Yeah. Too, also, we talked about Tommy, stepping in on the drums and stuff. And this album was actually produced by Tommy and Craig Leone, but pretty, again, it kind of shows you the, a lot of people, I don't know, like when you think of Ramones, you think of, I don't know why, but it's always Joey and Dee Dee. And I know it was Joey because of his stance on stage and being a lead singer, but Tommy sounds like he was just as big of a piece as the puzzle as anybody else.
Yeah, I don't think the Ramon sound would be the Ramon sound if it wasn't for Tommy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right, let's do what this show is about. Let's dive into the album. We got our opener. Not only the album's opener, your opener. The opener, Blitzkrieg Bop. Brilliant, brilliant song. Absolutely love it. Lyrics are
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, when somebody picked up the needle and placed it on that first track, took a chance on some unknown band in 1976, and the hey ho, let's go. You got the drums going and the bass comes in, and then boom, the guitar comes in. And it's just like whoa. And if I had hair, it would be blown back. They just like hit you, and then songs out, and they start
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, for me, I don't, if you're not a punk fan or not born in this era, I, you've got to know that "Hey Ho, Let's Go." I mean, that is just been used so many different ways.
Yeah, I don't think you could get through, to this point of your life and not have heard it with the commercials it's been in. You go to the ballpark or a sporting event, it's
Uh-huh.
being pumped through the loudspeaker. It gives you like that energy charge, and that's something about when you're listening to the Ramones. It's how it makes you feel. You get pumped up. And it feels good. It's not like an anger or an aggression like that. Although some of the songs have some pretty crazy themes to them, but it's feel good music.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you go, and which is crazy because he wrote all these other great lines in there, but "Hey Ho, Let's Go." You're not going to get better than that.
I don't think anybody even cares what the song's about.
Yes.
They're going through a tight one. The kids are losing their minds. Blitzkrieg Bob, what's that? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Hey Ho. Maybe that was a tribute to the, the hosts in New York City. Never know. Another classic. I think one of my personal favorites, "Beat on the Brat," which I can only imagine where this came from, the inspiration, or I don't know, but what a great song.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Joey has talked about being like the high society brat, that needs a beat
Mhm.
down. Dee Dee tells a story that Joey witnessed a mother actually chasing her son with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? Who knows? I mean, there might be no story behind it. But you hear that beat on the brat with a baseball bat. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay.
And then that, "What can you do? What can," like that, I mean, just a little stupid line like, "What can you do?" And the way that he sang it, the timing, it was just the timing with this song to me like really stands out. I think it just has really good timing, and everybody's just on their key, on their point, and the pace is what makes it.
Yeah, I mean it's dark humor. It's not intended to like, oh yeah, let's go hit people with bats. I mean, you hear the song, it's funny.
Yes, yeah, yeah. You said a lot of people sometimes want to put a lot of thought into something, and sometimes it's the most littlest thing. Judy is a Punk, another classic. I mean, oh, it's safe. I forgot to say too with God, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, with these songs, the first song written by Tommy Ramone and Dee Dee Ramone, Blitzkrieg Bach, "Beat on the Brat," written by Joey Ramone himself. I mean, just shows you two different people. Well, two people writing the first song and a different person writing the other song. Like just how it all kind of goes together, right, with different minds, which is really cool. And then Judy is a Punk, written by Joey Ramone again. Only at 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's in and it's out. A minute and a half.
Yeah.
With 3 verses. And, even though the first verse is, the second verse same as the first.
Yeah, you got like 30 seconds of verse almost. Not even. No, not even. Like it's probably not like what 20 seconds of verse.
Yeah, and Johnny Ramone being a very innovative guitarist with like the downstrokes and none of these songs are cluttered up with guitar solos.
No,
They're just
which is why the album is only probably 29 minutes. I mean, it's under 30 minutes.
No filler, no clutter. Get to the point.
Yeah.
And the ending line, whether Jackie and Judy survive or not, perhaps they'll die. I've heard Joey say that was the line from the Burl Ives song, "The Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly." I don't know why she'll swallow a fly. Perhaps she'll die.
Yeah, I mean, another classic. I mean, it's just like I said, you're on song number 3, and you're just like, at this point, like, when you're listening to the album, like, yeah.
And all 3 songs,
Yep,
just blowing you, just blowing, and you want to turn it up when you hear it. You hear that, you're like, oh, let's crank this up.
Oh my God. Then you get the 4th song, which is again a song by Tommy Ramone, but just changes the whole outlook of everything because it brings you down to a 1950s stylish love song. And
yeah. I want to be your boyfriend.
Fits so well with it. Like,
yeah, definitely the slowest song on the album, the sweetest song on the album. It's a love song. It's romantic. It sounds like something the Beatles would have done early in their career, and without a lot of like overdubbing and stuff. There's this little 12-string thing going on in it. It's really cool. It shows that their pop influences, they weren't just like about playing loud, playing fast. They had some substance to their songs as well.
Yeah, this kind of shows you that if they wanted to be a serious band, they could. With this, especially like you said, bringing in who would have known that Ramones owned a 12-string? Might have borrowed it, but that's just crazy, But I mean, I love this song. I was definitely listening to it earlier today, and then kind of forgot about like this song, like how much I did enjoy it. All right, Chainsaw, which is I guess we were here. You see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, inspired by that wonderful, great movie by Toby Hopper from. What's that? 1975, I think that was. So it was a year before the album came out.
Yeah, and these guys, monster movie fans, rock and roll fans, they're just regular guys, like the guys who who enjoyed this kind of music were into the same kind of stuff. Like the old horror movies, the old classic rock and roll stuff. I used to see Joey Ramone up at the Chiller theater conventions up in and Johnny had been there a few times. I met Joey at a couple of the parties up there. Yeah, they were just regular guys enjoying like the Chiller kind, like the rest of us. Really cool.
Yeah, well, that's what's like, for me, like I always said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the ultimate horror movie, especially as a kid. That was the best. Things changed when Rob Zombie started making horror movies. His House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects definitely blew my mind and forever will, be the staple of horror movies. But again, great Ramones song and great movie.
And the silly dark humor. Texas Chainsaw, they had to make it rhyme. So it's not massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They took my baby away from me.
Yes.
I'll never get out of there. I don't care. Whoa. I don't care. Like saying how wonderful this girl is. And then, she's, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre took her away. And I don't care.
I would have loved to sat there when they were writing this one and just sit in the room with them. Now we have the best ever Ramon song. I'm sorry. Now I want to sniff some glue. Oh my God. One paragraph.
Yeah. Just 4 simple lines. I want to sniff some glue. I want to have something to do. All the kids want to sniff some glue. All the kids want something to do.
Yes.
Of course, Dee Dee said, yeah, I hope, people aren't going out sniffing glue. This is, supposed to be funny. I'm sure that there were some who maybe were influenced.
Yeah. I definitely, snipped some glue in my teenage years, especially after hearing this song. And all me and my friends, and of course, it was Elmer's, like the white glue you use.
Okay. Maybe a little safer than
not the industrial stuff. But I can only imagine, though, because that was probably 12 years later, how many kids in '76 snipped glue because of this song. Glue companies hopefully benefited from it.
I hope not too many. Yeah.
The other thing is, like I was saying about the Rob Zombie, this actually song was in his House of Thousand Corpses soundtrack and played in the movie, which I think is awesome because they are horror fans and movie music lived on in horror movies. But,
yeah.
I would say, and you as a songwriter, this song breaks all the rules of songwriting, right? There's like there's no really no verse, no chorus, no pre-chorus,
no bridge.
It's 4 lines.
Yeah.
Like I give them more credit for this than anything else because how do you take 4 lines and make it a classic that's still played on the radios and people want to hear, from 1970? That's 49 years.
Yeah, and they sure got their mileage out of it too because come the second album, they had a track on the Ramones Leave Home, Carbona, not Glue. And the people at Carbona kind of had a problem with it, and it was later replaced on the LP. So the earlier LPs of the Ramones Leave Home, the second album, would have the follow-up track to this, Carbona, not Glue.
Yeah, I mean, love this song. Probably when we're done, I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down to the basement. I don't know. What's
another horror theme?
Yeah. This one for me, not a bad song. Definitely not a highlight for me, but decent song.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just shows that kind of like strange, like dark sense of humor. It starts out, "Hey, Daddy-O." Like, Daddy-O. Why Daddy-O? I mean, maybe because I don't want to go. It's what he found the rhyme. I don't know. Like Massacre took my baby away from me. He needed something, to go together. But man, I'm just like the picture. Hey, Daddy-O, I don't want to go down to the basement.
Yes.
something down there. Yeah, it's like a kid's kind of fear. Like I don't want to go down to the basement. Now you
Uh-huh.
mentioned Blondie earlier and CBGB's, and her thought on this was it was the bathroom at CBGB's he was singing about because it was a really scary place in the club. I don't know if that was her joke or if she was being serious, but she had said that in an interview at one point. So.
Yeah, I would love to like actually sit down with her and hear her stories of their early CBGBs,
Yeah.
which is crazy because most people when they would talk to her and are going to want to talk about, oh, let's just talk about Heart of Glass for the next hour. No, man, tell me what you were doing in '76 with the Ramones and CBGB.
Yeah.
Loudmouth, another, I guess, another four liner.
it is one of the funniest songs for me. Here's Joey Ramone, big, tall, 6'4", 100-pound soaking wet, skinny guy. Hey, you're a loudmouth, babe. You better shut it up. I'm going to beat you up. Are you intimidated? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know
But I
what?
mean,
They're intimidating together, that's for sure.
yes.
They you never know too because I was watching Billy Corgan's podcast and he had a former bass player of his on the show, Melissa Alfermeyer, and she would talk about how they first met. And she was at a show. She didn't know Billy Corgan. Her roommate's boyfriend threw a bottle at the stage, and he had jumped off the stage and started choking him.
Oh.
And that's how they met. Like and this before the Pumpkins were like a huge band. And but it's just again, like you said, when someone's singing on stage and they say, you're a loudmouth, baby, you better shut up. You don't know
Yeah.
what they're gonna do to you. So you never don't judge the book by the cover.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, I'd also maybe look at his growing up and being kind of like the loner who was picked on. I mean, maybe this is how he felt inside, and now he's fronting the Ramones. He's got a platform now and get some of that frustration out. Like, you guys picked on me. Well, you're a loudmouth, baby. You better shut it up.
Yep, and there's another DD song. DD again, which wrote "Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue." I don't want to go down to the basement with Johnny Ramone. Just show you the talent. Loudmouth, another DD Ramone. Johnny Ramone. Well, they were a duo. Those two. Loudmouth. Like I said, just like another good one. Listen to My Heart. This one's another DD rush. Not DD again. DD definitely songwriter, without a doubt. And here we got some lyrics.
Yeah.
Listen to My Heart. Great song. Not one of my favorites, but based on the album. This is fun.
Yeah. Song about love gone wrong.
Yeah, which is the recipe for selling records, but not necessarily in their case, but usually what it was. Okay, Havana Affair. Yeah.
This is one. I mean, I love the song. I love listening to it. For years, I had no idea what he was saying because I couldn't pick the lyrics up just listening to it. I had to find printed lyrics and oh, that's what he's saying.
Uh-huh.
I still don't know what it's about.
Well, I'm looking at it and being somebody that lives in Florida right now, and especially I lived in South Florida, and the Cuban huge Cuban population, and actually knew somebody. I had a roommate at one point whose mother hopped on a raft from Cuba and floated to the United States Um,
Well,
so when I'm reading the lyrics, it kind of remind me of that. You know how it, there. I guess it was 70s, like early 70s. How so many of the Cuban citizens were just jumping on anything they can float on and try to float to America, which ended in Florida because it was so close. So I would imagine it's got something, some kind of coming to U.S. from, they mentioned the CIA, political song, I guess we'll say. Maybe their first attempt at one. All right. So then we have 53rd and 3rd, which obviously we're going to say is about New York City.
yeah, I, to me, this is the darkest track on the album.
Uh-huh.
I mean, some of the other stuff, beat on the brat and some of these things, I'm going to beat you up. I mean, that I'm, taking like it's tongue in cheek. I want to sniff some glue. Yeah, it's tongue in cheek. It's humor. It's parody. This one is uh, a little crazier, I think.
Yeah. And, written solely by Dee Dee Ramone and only, 2 minutes and 19, even with all those lyrics, it's only 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Yeah, and it's a rare track where you actually hear Dee Dee's singing the bridge part. Joey singing the main part of the song, and then it gets to the murder. And you hear this different voice for the first time on the album. Here's Dee Dee. Then I took out my razor blade and did what God forbade.
Yeah.
Now the cops are after me.
Yeah, I wonder if you looked into the song a little further, if there wasn't any kind of like this is something that really happened and they kind of wrote about it, especially because the 70s and 80s there were a lot of crime and deaths in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with the song, it's about a man, a Vietnam vet, out on the street prostituting himself, and when he gets somebody who picks him up, he kills them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the intention or the anger or the angst was from having to be put in this position to be on the street, or if it was his way to kill somebody that he sees as a sicko. I'm not sure what the motivation of the character is, but it's very dark when he pulls out his razor blade and commits murder. But the like the contrast of it is this happy kind of 53rd and 3rd standing. It's this happy sound that very poppy kind of thing coming out, and wait, this is dark.
What's crazy about this one, and as you explained it to me, it made me realize that, this was 76 and they're writing about, a guy, prostituting himself, killing. At that same time, that's when serial killer John Wayne Gacy was very active in Chicago, not necessarily prostituting himself, but picking up prostitutes and killing them. So it's like crazy how this song was written at the same time something like that was happening. It just shows you, I don't know, to me that's mind blowing, really weird twist to it. Let's dance. Makes me think of the monkey song Let's Dance. But totally.
Yeah, the only cover song on the album, Let's Dance. It's an old rock and roll song. I guess they had to lighten the mood after that last one. And something I had never really noticed when I used to listen to this album when I was younger was I don't notice it till the end, but this like Wurlitzer organ being played. I was like, oh, that's an odd sound for a Ramones track. Hear that organ part in the back.
Yeah, this is written by Chris Montz. Are you familiar with him? I'm not. Or Jim?
No, but I know the song. I'm trying to think who it was who had recorded it originally. I'll let you know. I'm going to look it up here. Was Chris Montez?
Montez, yeah, Montez.
Chris Montez.
Yeah,
So
Jim Lee. Written by Jim Lee, but a Chris Montez cover, which is
yeah,
interesting.
1962 was a hit.
Okay,
It
which is
reached number 4 for him on the Billboard, so it was a big deal.
yeah. Well, they also later also covered California Sun, too, which is another old hit. Which again, California Sun, it was California Sun and Pet Cemetery was the songs that Pet Cemetery is the song that got me into them because of my age. I did that for the Stephen King movie, and that was so huge. Then when I went to go, listen to them, I wind up hearing California Sun, and I loved it. Didn't realize it wasn't their song, but I found out it was. But, you know, sometimes covers, bands rebirth covers.
And especially a band like the Ramones, because they have their style. Any song they touch is going to be a Ramones song,
Uh-huh.
but it's these old rock and roll classics are so conducive to be played in the Ramones style.
Yeah.
They had a full album of covers. I believe it was called the Acid Eaters that they did much later. So if you ever
Yes.
get a chance, check that out. There's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
did
great.
hear that.
Yeah.
I need to listen to that again, though. That's a good bring up. I don't want to walk around with you. I love that title. Another DD, minute and 43 minutes. Another, this time, all right, you're going to give us 5 lines instead of 4. But I'm breaking all
Yeah, and 4 of the 5 lines are the same.
Yes, yeah, you're really only giving 2. Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a musician, but I have sat with musicians and I wrote real lyrics for quite a few songs. And not being a musician, I sometimes I would say, I want this line in the song, and they would go, but it breaks all the rules. And I'd look at them going, what rules? Song.
Yeah. Who makes the rules?
Yeah, who makes the rules? And this is my prime example of why when I fought for what I wanted in a song, because there is no rules in this. It's 2 lines.
Yeah.
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 So I praise them for that. I love that. I love when, if you're going to be a musician and you're going to just stick to whatever you were taught and not branch out, then I can't help you.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I mean, there are great bands out there, and I start thinking of bands like some of like the progressive rock band, like Dream Theater,
Yeah.
playing in these key signature. Dude, I couldn't even begin to comprehend the technical skill that it takes to play some of the things that they're playing. But guess what? I hear it, I'm like, I don't feel a whole lot. Hey, you're great, but
Uh-huh.
how about stripped down, simple, and something that evokes some kind of a response from the listener. I mean, less is more, and
Yes.
the Ramones were all about just hitting you with the basics, but doing it in an original way and a skilled way. Those downstrokes that Johnny's doing, not everybody can play that way. That 8th time that Tommy invented, and then Marky and the other drummers followed up with, that's that. I mean, I don't know. I'd be worn out after the second song. I'm like, come on.
Oh, you definitely had to play this music when you were young,
Yeah.
Especially write it. Let's see here, and then
but it's I don't want to walk around with you. So why do you want to walk around with me?
yeah.
Logical question. Yeah.
Today your love, tomorrow the world. The final song of the album, 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Another one written by Dee Dee. It shows you the dominance of Dee Dee's songwriting for this album. Yeah.
See, Dee Dee with like that little needling kind of thing. Like, I want to sniff some glue, like pushing the envelope a little bit. Like, I'm a Nazi Shotzi. Like, okay.
Yeah. Definitely not sure where he was going with this one. The lyrics are a little odd, but another great song.
And it ends in this great love song. Today your love, tomorrow the world. Like love
Yeah,
conquers all, right? Like I'm a Nazi Shazi, I'll fight for the fatherland. Okay.
yeah. I I don't know. Which sometimes sometimes I don't know. I don't know what really know what his ethnicity is, but I've seen like a lot of Jewish people write stuff like about Nazis and stuff, and maybe not. It's just I always find it a very wild subject to, especially for anybody to touch. But um, you know, it belongs on the album. It's a great album, a great song. Um, Good way to end it. 29 minutes of just pure punk rock. You got, I want to be your boyfriend, but you need that. And I like to point out, I got the picture up here. That picture actually represents from the Rock and Roll High School.
I
With
love that movie.
great movie and great soundtrack. And I'm so glad they got to be a part of that. PJ Souls in that. Wow. So that's the album. So I got to ask you at this point, and we talk so much about the Ramones. Who is your favorite?
And it's kind of like saying, who's your favorite monkey? Who's your favorite beetle? I like every one of them for a different reason.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could pick a favorite, but I'll tell you, my favorite lineup is this lineup. However,
Okay.
I really love Marky, so I feel like really not much of a change because when Marky came in, I thought he fit in perfectly. So anything with up until the time Dee Dee left, I mean, I just love them as a unit.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the classic lineup is just incredible. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go definitely say Joey was my favorite. Maybe
Okay.
more so because, really when they did interviews, he was the one that spoke the most and had the most camera time. So I guess I got to know him the better. I'm not a musician, so I don't necessarily, I can understand when someone's playing something good or something unique, but I don't know. I just think Joey's singing was pretty wild, and his presence was really crazy. So he stuck out for me.
Yeah, the greatest groups are great because like all members bring something different, a different dynamic. Not one Beatle would be the Beatles on their own, and
Uh-huh,
not one Ramone is the Ramones on their own. I mean, a lot of times the voice helps identify the sound of a group, but with this group, and there's just so many different dynamics being put together between Johnny's style and Tommy's style and the energy and snarkiness of Dee Dee. I mean, that attitude, and then Joey just coming out of him, out of his, like entering this world where he is Joey Ramone, and
yeah,
that life that he brings to the songs. Not one of them by themselves could have captured it that way.
yeah. And then album, I'm gonna definitely for me, I'm gonna say this is my favorite of theirs. How about you?
Yeah, I have to say it's my favorite, and then Leaves Home, a
Yes.
second favorite, uh, because it just picks up from where this one leaves off. And like you said, the energy level, and there are other songs that they played later that I'm like, oh yeah, I love this song, I love that song,
Mhm,
like a lot of groups. But as a complete collection, the album doesn't do the same thing beginning to end the way this one does.
mhm,
And another thing about the Ramones, the Ramones are pioneers. They are the first to do what they did. Like when the Beatles, came to America, uh, everybody tried to be the Beatles. You had all these, sound alike bands. When Nirvana and that scene, broke in the 90s, then you had all these grunge bands coming and trying to be Nirvana, but they weren't Nirvana. Nirvana was Nirvana. The Beatles were the Beatles, and the Ramones were the Ramones. Even with all the punk and everything that came after it, everybody who they inspired, when you hear that, like, wait a minute, three chords, I can play that,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and it but and you want to capture that, and it feels good. um so they are an original.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, and this is a classic album. And like as we mentioned earlier, it wasn't a successful album, but it didn't stop
At the
them
time.
from promoting
Yeah.
it very heavily. They promoted it. They performed over 60 concerts supporting the album. Many of them were at CBGB's in New York. The band toured through northern United States. Touring was difficult and a low budget. The band and the crew had to handle most of the work, which is usually um, I've seen I've gone to like arena shows and seen opening band even help clean up. So that's not surprising. Um, in July 1976, they performed their first major show in the UK, which is very interesting because at the same time, there July 1976, we also had you know the birth of the Sex Pistols, and these shows had a major impact on the British punk for influencing bands like the Clash and the Sex Pistols. And then after this, though, it just show you the growth that they had because the growth, I mean, it didn't sell well maybe in the very beginning, but eventually took off where the Ramones, after this 76, were performing 100 shows a year. That's a lot.
Yeah, their pace of playing. I mean, I know at the beginning they had to play because they had to eat. They weren't selling a whole lot of records, so they had to play these shows. But yeah, the pace that they kept, and my one of my biggest regrets was when they were doing the farewell tour. Every band does the farewell tour
Yes.
3 or 4 or 5 times. And they came up, they're coming to Philly. My buddy said, this is the last chance we're going to get to go see the Ramones. You go. I was like, oh man, I had something going on. I can't even remember what it was. That's how important it was. But I was like, we'll catch them the next time. He's like, no, you don't understand this. They'll be back. How many, reunion tours and, final tours, all these other bands.
Yes.
Like, no, that was it. That was it. And
yeah, I don't think I ever saw them. And I say that loosely because I went to a lot of festivals, and I do not think they were ever on any show I've ever saw. And I'm so sad that I didn't because they would have been a great band to see.
Yeah.
If
I did get the chance to spend a little time one time with Joey Ramone at a party. The guy sitting all by himself. Just sitting there by himself. Like, is that really Joey Ramone? Like, what's he doing by himself? But that, he just kind of had that quiet, personality. And I went over, got to talk to him a little while, and thanked him for the music, and how it just makes people feel good. That's important.
I was to say, what do you say to Joey Ramone when you meet him?
Yeah.
I remember. I was a huge fan of the '80s band Warrant, and I wound up getting backstage pass. And I remember sitting down on the couch next to him, and just the personal thing. And I probably had 100 things to say, and I couldn't think of one thing to say. I was so starstruck. But again, like Joey Ramone, I mean, that's just lucky for you. And then I believe you performed Blitzkrieg Bach as an opener and for your band, right?
Yeah.
That had to be fun for you to do.
Yeah, we did that. We did I Want to Be Sedated, would be another cover that we would sometimes do.
Oh yeah, you know what? I forgot about that song. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's which is so cool. Like I said, this one was a when you asked to do this one was a shock because I know a lot of your musical taste, and I never realized your connection with the Ramones and how much you enjoyed this first album. So this was definitely a pleasure to do with you. I really thank you so much for doing this because I don't know if this was an album I would have picked my first year, but I'm so glad you did. Because it made me go back and listen to it again, and I was kind of like, wow, like I hadn't heard it in like at least 15 years.
Cool.
And just this brilliant album belongs on my show, belongs on this planet, and I hope everybody. I hope a lot of if anybody comes across this episode and has not heard it, please. I wish again through the rules of copyrights, I can't play any of the music, but I wish I could. But please check this album out.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I want to say thank you. I know we are going to do some more because you're one of my favorite guests, and I enjoy having you. So we're gonna put our heads together and think of what the next episode will be.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. I want to thank everybody listening to make sure that you like and subscribe and leave any comments, especially if you want to hear us review a certain album. I would love it. I love the challenge. Joe brought me this one. I think he knew it better than I do. So next time I might make Joe do a little homework like he did do. All right, buddy. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Girl, you'll fall in love with sooner